This is Northeast Streaming Sports. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mac, Jack, and Jim Sunday Big Football Show, live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. I'm Mac with your co-host, Jack Hirsch, and two-time Super Bowl champion of the Dallas Cowboys, Jim Jeffcoat. Starting your morning off on Northeast Streaming Sports with the Big Football Show. It's the first Sunday of the NFL, and today, folks, we'll have on Keith Angle popping in at about 8:10 with the Patriots preview. We'll be going through all the games. As you can see at the bottom of the screen, you have some of the top 25 winners from college football, the losers, some NFL games, the games that are on today, a little bit of news, even semi-pro football. It's all about football today, folks. So you have the updates down there at the bottom, too. So Let's take a little bit of a look. Since we had Jim in here, me and Jack have already gave our opinions on the Tampa Bay Dallas game, where Dallas and Tampa Bay went at it, 31-29. Dallas had a shot. Dallas had a shot to beat Tampa Bay. I mean, if you want to count a field goal kick, I mean, I know this is ifs. At the end of the year, it counts as a loss. Doesn't matter what happened during the game. As Bill Parcells says, you are what your record says you are, right? So, but it was a heck of a game. The controversial no call on that offensive pass interference at the end of the game might have cost Dallas that game. So, Jim, we got Jim Jeffcoat with us. He'll be with us every Sunday for the Big Football Show. Jim, what's your thoughts? What do you think of the Cowboys and how they played against Tampa Bay on Thursday night?
Well, my biggest thought is the offense looked really good. That looked like he didn't miss a beat. Everybody was concerned about his health, and he looked really good. Amari Cooper proved that he is a top 10 receiver in the NFL. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb started off slow, and he picked it up. Michael Gallup is that kind of glue. He is that kind of glue. So that defensively, they did some good things, but they got some issues on defense, and we all knew that they had issues on defense, and they got to continue to get better. But I never forget what Jimmy Johnson used to say about an NFL season. It is not a sprint, it's a marathon. It doesn't matter what you do in those first couple games. It's what you do over the season and how you improve. And I think they can improve defensively, and that's going to be the key for them.
You know, everybody talked about Tampa Bay, is the lock to go to the Super Bowl, that they're going to, they're the most talented team in the NFC. But their defense, Jim, looked nothing like it did in the Super Bowl. I mean, Dak had time to throw. He throw 52, 58 attempts, passing attempts?
Yes.
And the running game with Zeke really didn't look that good. I mean, it really didn't do too much. They just threw the ball all over the place. And Tampa Bay, surprisingly, their defense looked terrible also.
Plus, they had a lot of turnovers, which was unusual for Tampa Bay. They had a lot of turnovers, and they didn't look in sync, which they didn't have a lot of health issues in the preseason, which that is a concern. But as you know, I didn't pick Tampa Bay to go to the Super Bowl. It is really difficult to repeat. It is really difficult to repeat. From our first Super Bowl to our second Super Bowl, it was really difficult that second time around because you become the hunted instead of the hunter, and that makes it difficult. Everybody gets up to play you, and it makes it more difficult. Everybody, that's their Super Bowl week. when they play Tampa Bay.
Yeah. And listen, I mean, to me, I think there was way too much passing on both sides of the ball, but that's the way they moved the ball. It was an exciting game. Like I said, if not for that offensive pass interference, and look, the officials have got to start calling it. I mean, how can a defense compete at all right now with the offenses if they're going to call pass interference when they want many times during a game on a defense? If they're going to use that stupid defenseless receiver rule, then you can't hit the quarterback. I mean, how can you not call that penalty, Jim? In fact, they said off season, they had a big meeting with the refs. They said, you got to start calling this. You got to start calling, especially when the arm is extended out. I mean, if they're fighting for the ball, whatever, hopefully they let it go. But when somebody actually pushes off, extends their arm, and shows that they pushed off, you got to call that.
No question. That was definitely a penalty. And that's where the review cameras should have come in effect. But we don't have them anymore. It was a big concern about them. But there's one instance that you could use that, because that was a push-off. We all know that. And, you can't cry over it's over. You can't cry over spilled milk. But it was a significant incident in the game.
Jim, what we never talk about, the rules have to be changed to actually protect the cornerbacks. Because to me, the hardest position to play in the NFL, and I'm not talking about quarterbacks right now who have to know the playbook perfectly and who are leaders, is the cornerback. They're guarding world-class athletes who know exactly what they're doing, and the cornerback, just puts his hand on the receiver and they flag him. It's ridiculous, the lack of protection that these guys have playing cornerback. The rules have to give them a little more leeway, and the receivers tend to push off, and they get away with it. And just playing cornerback, it's brutal in the NFL.
I agree with you, Jack, but here's the issue that nobody ever talks about. In the last maybe 10 years, have you seen the size of the receivers? They've gotten bigger, but corners haven't gotten bigger. Corners have not gotten as big as these receivers. You got receivers that are weighing 240, 245 pounds, where you still have corners that are in the low 200s. You very rarely see corners around 225, 230. I don't know if guys might have somebody, but that's the issue you run into. You're playing against a guy, tight ends that can run. I mean, really run and really athletic. So that's a disadvantage there. And now the rules have changed where you can't really touch him until after 5 yards. And then you get an instance like this where he just blatantly pushes off. And that's things that they got to look at in the offseason and correct those things if they can.
Well, isn't the height more important, that you have these shorter cornerbacks and these taller receivers?
No question. The height hurts them too. But the size, I mean, it started back with certain receivers, but now it's everybody has it. The Terrell Owens and guys like that. And you see it now, but you're right, the height hurts you because you got smaller receivers trying to cover guys like that. And these guys, I mean, they're physical phenoms.
Yeah, I mean, Megatron, a great example of that.
Yes.
I mean, how do you cover a guy like that who's got speed, power, height? I mean, it's got to be a nightmare for a lot of cornerbacks. I don't know of any cornerback that's that big in the NFL right now. I mean, there have been some big cornerbacks in the past, but to right now, I don't know. So you guys got the Chargers coming up next week. It doesn't get any easier for the Cowboys, right? I mean, you got the Chargers, then you got the Eagles, and I think after that, you guys are playing another big team. I haven't looked at the schedule again, but
I think it's Kansas City, isn't it?
Yeah, I think Kansas City too. Yes.
Here's
So you got, I mean, you got a tough one coming up. So guys, you ain't scared of the Chargers.
I would, if one team is going to pull off an absolute shock and come out of nowhere and contend for the Super Bowl, it is going to be the Chargers. Well, because they were on an upswing at the end of last year. You judge the second half of the year, how a team is coming on, how they're peaking. So the Chargers are the one team that could fool everyone and come out of nowhere. I mean, they have their franchise quarterback, one of the best in Justin Herbert, and new coach. And it seems to be a line for the Chargers to maybe do something special this year.
Well, folks, backstage right now coming on with his Patriots preview, we have Keith Engel of TGI Sports Talk. He follows the Patriots, and he's one of the guys that come on our show regularly. So we have him on Sunday. Let's hear his thoughts on the Patriots Dolphins. Let's see if we can bring him up. How you doing today, Keith?
Good morning, guys. This is a crowd today.
Yes, we do have a crowd today because we all want to hear your opinion, Keith. Okay, so the Pats versus the Dolphins. Two good defenses. We got two basically rookie quarterbacks. Tua didn't play all year last year. So you got two rookie quarterbacks, two defenses, one legendary coach, one coach trying to become a legend. What are your thoughts on today's game, Keith?
He's got a long ways to go to meet that legend, but I agree he's a good coach. Listen, my thoughts today are the Patriots are going to they got to keep it simple for Mac Jones today. I mean, Nelson Aguilar may be out of the game. I don't think it's that huge a deal because I don't see the Patriots taking a ton of shots down the field. I think they're going to use the tight ends. They're going to use their guys out of the backfield to give him a comfort zone. I don't think they want to give him a chance to lose the game, right? There were another key injury though is Mills being out potentially in the defensive backfield, which causes the Patriots some issues because they don't have a lot of depth back there. They've got Williams, who had an up and down preseason. They got Wade, who not only is new to the league, he's brand new to the Patriots just a couple of weeks ago. I think they may go with a kind of a jumbo backfield and play an extra safety back there because they were talking about playing Duggar and McCourty and the other guy's escaping my mind here. Hold on, guys got me early today.
Yes.
Who was the other guy I was thinking about? They were talking about playing. Jonathan Jones. Jonathan Jones, and by the way, Justin Bethel, Adrian Phillips. I mean, they're talking about playing. Got a lot of safeties, 3 safety packages, and you know that Belichick is very creative in putting different packages on defense. I love the matchup of Belichick against Tua today. That's the key matchup for me.
So Keith, they both got strong defenses.
Yeah.
I mean, you said that you don't want to see Mac Jones throwing downfield. Would there come a point in the game that maybe he has to win it? I mean, you know, Tua is – I'm not sure about Tua yet. I mean, we're going to have to find out about Tua, in my opinion, anyway. He's got to prove to me that he can be a real good NFL quarterback because he hasn't done that for me yet anyway. I don't think a lot of people in the business know whether he's going to be good or not because of last year.
Yeah.
But can you see where Mac Jones may be forced into trying to win this game?
Yeah, well, yeah, I think that would be a worst case scenario for the Patriots today is if they fall behind and they've got to get him out of the comfort zone that they want to keep him in today, right? You're going to have to take some shots downfield. I'm not saying they're not going to, but the problem with Aguilar being if Aguilar is out, we don't know for a fact yet. They don't have a downfield threat to really replace him. They've got a lot of guys who play the same type of game, you know, in the middle of the field and out of the backfield, but they don't have a guy to really get the ball down the field to. And if they fall behind, then they're putting Mac Jones in a tough position, you know, out of the gate here in week 1. I like their chances. I mean, they got to stop. It isn't, you know, Jim knows this, obviously. You stop the run. You still need to stop the run game in the NFL. And the Dolphins have a very good run game. The Patriots are much better in their front 7 than they were last year with some of the guys that they brought in. Hightower obviously is back, which is huge in helping the run game. They brought Godchak's in just for that reason, to stop the run game. And they want to control that line of scrimmage. And they're going to want to pound the football, I think, too, a little bit. You're going to see a lot of Damian Harris, and I think you're going to see a lot of the rookie Stevenson today, more than you might think, in trying to control that ground game. And again, not making Mac Jones do too much. And if they get in that scenario that you mentioned, Mac, then they're going to be in a position where they could lose this game and and Mac could get off to a bad start here.
I don't like to put too much emphasis on one particular game, but of all the quarterbacks in the NFL today, it means more, I think, to see how Tua performs than anyone else, because he's basically going against Bill Belichick. And Brian Flores, excellent young head coach of the Dolphins, he better put Tua in a position to succeed, because if Tua throws 3 picks and the Patriots win big, the narrative changes. Even with people like myself who are very high on Tua, what exactly is his upside? I mean, they've had the whole offseason to get ready for this game. If Tua should come out and have a really good game, that signals that he's going to be really top of the line quarterback, going forward. So it's only one game. I understand that, but I think there's more at stake for Tua than any quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, I would say there's more at stake for the Dolphins in general in this game, because I expect the Patriots to have some, as we talked about Friday, some bumps in the road here early in the season. I think as they go along, they're going to get better and better and be a serious threat come late in the season. I don't think they're going to win the division, obviously. The Bills are just too good. But they could, if they match up with them later on in the playoffs, I like the Patriots' chances if things go as planned. So in a 17-game season, it is a division game, so you can't excuse that. I mean, those games are all important, obviously. But I think this is a bigger game for Miami than it is New England. I don't, unless we get beat, 40-3, I'm not that concerned if they lose a close game. But you don't want to lose to a division rival at home for sure.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fun game. I think it's going to be a fun game. I'm excited. I'm excited to start the Mac Jones era, because Jack knows how much I love Mac Jones. I loved him all the way back to before the draft.
Yeah.
Well, I have good news for you.
Somebody else.
If they activated Brian Hoyer just in case, so he's available.
Well, there you go.
But my point,
Jack, if Brian Hoyer's in the game, you may have to bail me out of jail later, because I'm probably going to have,
Go ahead, Jim. What were we going to say?
No,
Go ahead,
I was going to say my point to this game, any young quarterback, you got to put them in a position to succeed, to get their confidence up. It's not just Tua. It's going to be Mac Jones. You always have to put these quarterbacks in position, because out of all positions on the field, the quarterback has to have confidence. And he's got to know what he can do and what he can't do. And as a coach, I've said that before, you got to know what your quarterback can do.
Yeah.
The prime example is Trent Dilfer. Dilfer was just an average player, but the Baltimore Ravens won because they knew what his limited abilities is, what he could do and what he couldn't do, and didn't make him a liability.
I would argue he wasn't even an average player when he got to Baltimore. He was below average.
I can't argue with you, but they won a Super Bowl with him.
Yeah, no, they did. I agree. And knowing what you have, and as you said, Jim, and making best use of it is important. And I think Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniel are going to do that, especially in the early part of this season with Mac Jones. And they aren't going to ask him to do too much unless the scenarios come up that Mac brought up, where you've got to ask him to do more. And that will not be that's not going to be the optimal situation for the Patriots here early in the season.
Well, I think
with Dolphins.
Yeah, it's
Listen,
a good point. Don't forget special teams. Don't forget special teams.
Yes.
That could be the difference in this game today.
Yeah.
Belichick activated Nick Folk off the practice squad. We don't even know who's kicking today.
Well, I heard Mac Jones is kicking off. So anyway, hey, Keith, thank you for coming in. We appreciate you stopping in and give us a little Patriots preview.
Absolutely.
One of the locals. Good luck to the Pats today. And hopefully, Mac Jones does really well and we see a good game today. That's all I'm hoping for.
Listen, I appreciate you guys having me on this morning. It's fun to come with somebody to look at besides you two guys. I always get to look at you and
what are you talking about, Keith? Jack is a very handsome man.
He is, but with that Jets, I got to tell you, the Jets card doesn't make you look.
Listen, I'm not even listening to you guys. I'm thinking, which game am I going to watch at 4 o'clock? I'm watching the Jets at 1 o'clock. I'm not going to watch the other game on TV here, the Falcons and the Eagles. But how can I watch the Giant Denver game when you have Cleveland playing at Kansas City?
Right,
I wanted to see the Giant game. Cleveland at Kansas City.
Oh, God.
I watch all the games, Jack.
Yes, you can do that. But
Yeah, I could do that, but I kind of like the focus. When you keep bouncing around game to game, I
I'm
like
lucky
to focus on just
I
the
am
game.
lucky. I am lucky to get Jack in the program for a full 2 hours. Never mind him going around different games. Keith,
Listen,
again, thank you.
One more thing before I go. Am I the only guy who is surprised that Jack said I'm not even listening to you guys?
No, not at all.
No, I didn't mean at that moment. No, just for a few seconds, guys. I always pay attention. My mind was wandering. Which game am I going to watch?
He's
For?
exactly how well Sam Donald's going to play today.
Yeah, Keith.
I mean, if I have a chance to see Teddy Bridgewater and Daniel Jones, Patrick Mahomes and Baker Mayfield, come on.
Hey, Keith, you know my daily struggle. He never listens to me, and he ends up asking the same questions I do about 5 minutes later.
I'm surprised I'm not seeing that glass of whiskey at 8:00 in the morning with you. There.
No, Jack
With
only
your
drinks
Red Bulls.
Yeah, Jack only drinks Red Bulls and fruit punch. That's it. So,
yeah.
Keith, again, thank you. Have a great day and enjoy your Patriots, my friend.
Excellent.
Great seeing you, Keith.
Thank
you too, Jeff. Bye-bye.
So there you go. Our past preview with Keith Angle, follows the Patriots, knows everything about the Patriots history. So he was kind of good enough to come in, and hopefully we'll get him as a regular every Sunday. So like to get the Pats a little shine every time I can, because they got our old defensive head coach, just like the Dallas Cowboys ripped off our old defensive coach. That's why these games are so good. They all starts with the Giants, folks. It all starts with the Giants. Lombardi, Landry,
Hey, man,
Belichick.
I had Everson Walls on the show, and he was talking about Belichick. He said he was a lot similar to Coach Landry in the philosophy of the Giants. They want to run the ball and play physical defense. That's what they wanted to do, and they still do. They want to run the ball, play physical defense. And he was talking about Belichick, and I asked him about the personalities, and he said he was a lot. Everson Walls did say he was a lot similar to Landry in his personality.
But the philosophy was different, Jim. Coach Landry said a player's never going to lose his job because of an injury. If he's a starter, he gets injured, he's going to start again when he comes back. Bill Belichick will cut a guy if he gets injured. So that's like a different philosophy.
Or over COVID protocol.
Yes. Exactly. Hey, listen, there's a little bit of Parcells in them. What can I tell you? Hey, Jim, the point you were making with the defensive cornerbacks, right? The size. My producer just showed me the average cornerback in the NFL, guys, is 5'11", 195 pounds. That's who you're asking to guard these big, strong, fast wide receivers, and not letting them kind of hand play with them and getting the calls when these bigger guys are pushing off. So, as Jack said, very unfair, and as Jim said, it's hard to match up today with these big wide receivers.
Yeah, now,
I don't know, what's the answer, Jim? I mean, do you go out and try to find cornerbacks that are that big?
You know what? And I don't know if you guys cover two is different than the man coverages.
Yes.
And then you cover two, you protect those corners a little bit more because now they're banging and they got help over the top.
Right.
But the problem with cover two is now the tight end, just like what happened to the Cowboys, the tight end becomes, because now that linebacker has to drop deep in the middle and it opens up holes. You'd like to play man defense against these big receivers, but the physicality of them makes it a little bit more difficult to do that. And the athleticism, really, it makes it more difficult. And that's the thing. Cover two is going to become more. And what Tampa did to Kansas City in the Super Bowl, they were mixing and matching coverages, and they were playing a lot of that. They were banging them up. They were beating them up on the line of scrimmage in the 5 yards, and then they had help over the top. So they weren't out leveraged because normally the safeties are a little bigger than the corners. But that's the only thing. Go ahead.
So Jim, I coach a little defense too. I know you coach it. You coach defense over there in the XFL.
Yeah.
What to me? The answer to that is either you got to go to 3 safeties and have a big safety back there who can do that, or you've got to have very, very athletic linebackers that can cover the tight ends. And that's the only way you win with something like that. And you got to hit the tight end off the line too, which I was surprised that Dallas did not in the game. That's one of my biggest surprises. You let Gronk run free. You didn't hit him off the line. I don't understand that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to stop that timing.
But the problem with running three safeties, what if they come out in three receiver looks?
True.
Now you got a problem because you got the slot. Now you're putting a less athletic player on a slot.
On the slot. I
And
agree.
That's the only problem you have with that. And I agree with you. You got to do something. But like you said, Gronk was running free in the middle. They couldn't do anything. He hurt him. And other teams are going to look at that. And it's a copycat league. They're going to start copycatting that. Now,
Well, Jim, wouldn't you put either your defensive end to give him a bump, especially when you're blitzing? If you're blitzing, you got to hit the quick. You got to make sure that safety comes up and covers a short pass.
I agree.
And you got to make sure that you got to make sure that you hit that tight end or that outlet pass. You got it. I don't know.
Never give him a free release, but they
I don't know.
did something interesting. Tampa Bay. If you look at Gronk's first touchdown, he delayed that. He blocked first, and then one snuck out and obviously made the catch.
Yeah.
So
Very true.
Yeah, Jim Mack, I mean, this is just an idea that's never been used for a whole game. Let's say a team they feel they can't get a good pass rush on the quarterback. Why not go with a three-man rush all game and drop one guy back? Wouldn't that be a little better over the course of a whole game? But we've never seen that happen long term.
the reason is because of the running game, Jack. You are outnumbered in the box because what teams look at, the quarterback looks at how many people are in the interior and between tackle to tackle, and they count. And if they have the advantage, they're going to run the ball. If they have a disadvantage, they're going to pass. So you get in the three-man fronts, and then that's not your primary front. Then they're going to take advantage of it because they have angles on you. And they have, obviously, they could double your nose. They could double your ends. They can get up on your linebackers. And if your linebackers are not used to playing that style, it's a little bit more difficult than people think.
But let's say it's third and long, okay? We still see teams always rushing four guys. Why not rush three and drop one guy back? Because the quarterback's probably passing at that point.
Do that against Brady and see what happens. Do that against Brady and see what happens.
And the problem is now you're giving that quarterback like a Brady, Dak Prescott, because you saw that. Now they get the advantage because they can sit back there and pat the ball, and they can look at their five receivers. They can look at every receiver on the field and find the open receiver.
So
in some incidents, if you're third and long, you can do that. But
Jim and Jack,
under.
Before I get to Robert Butler, Sports Scope, great guest will be up next. I have a problem. As you say for the comments here, I don't want to say that name fast. It's going great. Dig, Bick, Duty. I'm not going to try to say that fast because that could get me in a lot of trouble. Let's go.
Get you in big trouble. I was looking at that. That's why my eyes got wide. I'm like, what is that?
Yes. So anyway, folks, backstage right now, we got our weekly guest that comes in. I know he's excited about the football season. He was reminding us that there was 52 weeks left just after the Super Bowl. So, I mean, I know he's excited about coming in. Let's welcome on Sports Scope host Robert Butler. Good morning, Robert.
Good morning, guys. We are 4.5 hours away.
Yes, we are.
Yes.
Jim, I don't think it's ever.
Jack, you ready? Jim,
Yes,
nice to meet you.
I got my hat, as you see. Jim, I don't think ever met Robert. Robert Butler's from Sports Scope. Jim he does a lot of commentary. He has a great show over at Sports Scope. He talks about all the big names and all the news about him. He does a great job over there.
Nice to meet you.
On your show.
Yeah. Big fan of your Wednesday show, man.
Thanks. There you go. So Robert, this topic could take an hour, but we got to try to do it within about at least 20
Rapid
minutes.
fire. Yeah.
So quarterbacks this year. Oh my! Listen, this is the first year I can remember, and I go way back. I go way back to the late 60s, early 70s, that I can remember, and even with the big quarterback classes, because it didn't happen there either, where three drafted rookie quarterbacks for three teams are starting game one. And now, if you guys can remember one, I mean, if you go back to the Eli Big Ben class with Phillip Rivers, Eli didn't open the game. You go back to the Elway Bills and with Jim Kelly and blah blah blah. I'm trying to remember the third one now. John Elway, Jim Kelly, and Marino.
83, yeah.
Yes. I mean, even one of them didn't start the opening game. I'm talking about starting the opening game for the season. Even Montana and Sims I can go back to 79 with them. Sims started, Montana sat behind the bird. So, I mean, I've never remember. If you guys can remember one, let me know. But how interesting is that 3 drafted rookie quarterbacks are starting the first game?
Didn't Donovan McNabb start the first game?
I'm talking about three teams.
Cowboys.
Yeah, 3 teams.
Yeah.
3 teams in the first year, starting a first-year quarterback at the same time.
Oh,
Right, guys. Yeah. They've got these quarterback counts now. These guys are a lot more advanced. As you notice, that teams are wanting to move on quicker from quarterbacks because they feel like that these players can start right away in certain circumstances. So it's the nature of the beast. You're starting to see the quarterback coaching's getting better. I was hearing a former quarterback talk about Tom Brady the other day. His throwing motion's better now than it was 10 years ago.
I believe it.
So it's really advanced.
I believe it. Yeah, I mean, listen, even Roger Staubach was fighting with Greg Morton. I mean, Terry Bradshaw with Joe Gilliam. I mean, Hall of Fame quarterbacks. A lot of them didn't start in their rookie year. So it's crazy. I don't know if it's because the league wants more production right away, and they don't want to let people learn. I mean, and if you look, Robert, and you think about it, really, Joe Burrow, Tua, right? Hurts. They didn't play a full season. Literally, they're rookies too. I mean, literally, these are rookie quarterbacks. They didn't have a full season to play.
Right. And Joe Burrow looked great, guys. I mean, before he got hurt, he was throwing those back shoulder passes. It's just the nature of the beast nowadays. I'm still a fan of if a guy's only got 1 full year in college, just let him sit. I mean, we saw that with Alex Smith and Patrick Mahomes, even going back to Rodgers, even though that wasn't really, it was a little bit of a different situation. But, it is what it is at this point. They feel like if you got enough college starts, go ahead and let him play, get his feet wet. I mean, I'm really surprised at how well Justin Herbert has played. And he didn't even look that good in college as far as, the coaching and everything. Pleasantly surprised.
So know what I think the mentality is, guys? I think the coaches are thinking, who gives us the best chance to win right now? Look, at Jacksonville, it's Trevor Lawrence. For the Jets, it's Zach Wilson. For the 49ers, Jimmy Garoppolo, at this moment, a little more than Trey Lance. That's why he's starting ahead of him. For the Bears, it's Andy Dalton, gives them a little better chance to win right now than Justin Fields. And for the Patriots, they felt they had a little better chance of winning with Mac Jones than Cam Newton. So that's the way they went. So that's what I think the mindset is. Who gives us the better chance of winning right now? It's not like what Andy Reid did with Patrick Mahomes. He knew he was going to sit him the whole year and go with Alex Smith. That was all planned out. But I think the mindset is you have to win now, especially if you're Matt Nagy with the Chicago Bears, who if they don't win this year, don't go to the playoffs, he could lose his job.
Oops, wrong one. Sorry about that, guys. Let me ask you, but Jim, right? I mean, there's different positions for different rookie quarterbacks, right? When you're rebuilding a program, I mean, you could ruin that quarterback. You look at Mac Jones. I think Mac Jones is in the best position right now. He's got a solid team he's going to start with, right? Just like Aaron Rodgers did in Green Bay. He had a solid team that he was starting with. But if you look at Zach Wilson and even Trevor Lawrence, I mean, these are rebuilding programs. That could ruin a quarterback, don't you think?
No question. I agree with you 100%. And when you're with a rebuilding program, it's easier to get that young quarterback in there to rebuild with it as opposed to the established team, because you're looking at it and you're saying you got a chance to realistically get to the Super Bowl And that's what they're saying. San Francisco's got a great chance to get to the Super Bowl. Jimmy G understands the offense. Well, why would you put Trey Lance in there at that early period of time? Just like you mentioned with Justin Fields and Andy Dalton, the problem you have, if you start Justin Fields, you still have, and Nagy's in a position where he's got to win to keep his job. So you look at all the variables in it, and there's different variables. Trevor Lawrence, I think, and I know you guys don't think this, but I think he's in a good position because he has a coach that understands quarterbacks. And I've always said that. It's the coaches have to understand these quarterbacks, especially young quarterbacks. What can they do and what can't they do? The best thing that ever happened to Troy Aikman was Norv Turner, because he found out what his strengths and weaknesses were, and he utilized that. He knew that Troy could do certain things, and he knew he couldn't, and he really worked with that. What hurt Troy at the end of his career, he didn't understand. Changeli knew that too, and he had to change the way he played. And Troy, because he was under Norv Turner and Ernie Zampese for that long time, he didn't understand that. Later on, he realized that Chan was trying to extend his career. But that's the thing. You got to understand your quarterback and what they can do. Don't put them in a position to fail. Always put them in a position to win. If it's throwing outs and short passes the game, as long as they're successful, they'll do that. Steve Young, he's in Tampa Bay. Everybody thinks he's a bust. He goes to San Francisco, and he becomes a Super Bowl, a Hall of Famer. It's just what can the quarterback do, and how can you make that work for you?
You know, Jim, that's a
Jim,
great.
Can I ask Jim something? What about a guy that's drafted early? Have you ever had a situation where the person drafted later or the veteran was so much better in practice than the person the team spent a first-round pick on, but you as a player have seen this guy get destroyed in practice by the backup? Because remember Gus Frerotte, I remember Mark Schlereth was talking about Gus Frerotte was better than Heath Schuler with Washington back in like 91, 92, but they took Heath Schuler with number 2 overall pick.
Well, that's a good
Did you ever have that situation?
Yeah, you look at it, a perfect example was Tony Romo. Tony Romo was a free agent, and they had drafted 2 quarterbacks, actually, and none of them were better than Romo. And then they had, the issue with Quincy Carter, who had a lot of talent, but he had issues off the field. And then eventually Romo became the better quarterback. And that's the thing. You got to realize that, hey, and coaches look at it, this is my job. This is my responsibility to get the best players on the field. And unfortunately, sometimes at the quarterback position, for whatever reason, maybe it's their systems in college or just their personalities, you find out that they're not the right fit for what you're trying to do. And you have to be strong enough to say, hey, this is the reason we're doing this. Because you always give that first rounder the opportunity to be successful. If you can't do it, then you have to move on.
So Robert.
Yeah.
Robert, great segue into the next part of this quarterback thing, right? So you've got right now quarterbacks, what I call with a fresh start, right? You've got Ryan Fitzpatrick, you got Andy Dalton, you got Winston, you've got Stafford, you got Goff, you got Sam Darnold. I mean, you've got all these quarterbacks that have moved to different teams, different situations, some by their choice, some not. I don't think Goff had a choice, and I don't know if he's very happy with, going to Detroit. But still, it's a different team. Wentz, is he really going to be that quarterback? Stafford, can he take that next step? He's talented, but he's older, and he's going to a team that has a shot at competing for the NFC Championship. Sam Darnold, who was, on a terrible team for 3 years, going to a decent team with Carolina. I mean, there's so much quarterback movement this year. It was almost hard to keep up with. So what are your thoughts on these quarterbacks moving around? Who do you think is going to have the best shot at really making a big impact on their new teams?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick with that Washington team. Now, he is an up and down player. They call him Fitz Magic for a reason. I mean, he gets hot early, and then he's just okay. But Sam Darnold, the Carolina Panthers, I mean, they have an outside chance to getting in as a playoff, as a wild card team with that new system. He looked great in the preseason. The little bit that we did see him, I like him to win today. No offense, Jack, but they had the youngest defense in the league last year, guys. The Carolina Panthers, and Teddy Bridgewater criticized Matt Rule for his red zone efficiency, and I thought they were great in the red zone. So I'm sure he's going to work on that. Remember, he's coming from college too. So I don't know. Keep an eye on Sam Darnold. I'm not ready to write him off with that Carolina Panther team.
What do you think about Winston and what he's going to do with New Orleans? Now, New Orleans, listen, I mean, Sean Payton is a tremendous coach, tremendous offensive coordinator. Even when Drew Brees went down, they just kept on winning. So what do you think he's going to do with Winston down here? Does this make New Orleans formidable?
Well, they have the lines together. Believe it or not, these guys were like $100 million over the cap, and they just let Latavius Murray go the other day because he wouldn't take a pay cut. So this is his last chance. He's got the opportunity, even though you got Michael Thomas is going to be out for a month, and you just lost another running back. I mean, they've got Kamara. Both lines are intact. I'm not sure. I'm just not sure about Winston. He's lost weight. He looks to be focused. If they get to the playoffs, this guy's got a job for a long time. Now, he's definitely got a job as a backup quarterback in this league, definitely. But I'm just not sure, guys. I am just not sure about Winston. It's a tough task. I don't think he's going to make it because he's kind of stuck in his old he's got a lot of bad habits. But with Sean Payton, he's definitely got the opportunity, and definitely they've got the line to do it, to get in.
Yeah, okay. So one last quarterback having a fresh start I want you to comment on.
Yeah.
Teddy Bridgewater is like the new Ryan Fitzpatrick, right? He's moved I don't know how many teams since he's been in the league.
Yeah.
He's not a bad quarterback. I mean, he's pretty efficient. He may not be a quarterback that can put you over the top, but listen, he's a good quarterback. What do you think about his chances, Robert?
Well, I tell you what, he's definitely got the weapons. They've got the defense is upgraded. A lot of people were high on Denver last year. I was not one of them people because they started getting injuries in training camp. Von Miller got hurt last year. He's another guy. He's a good stopgap quarterback. I don't think he is an over-the-top guy. He's not going to lose you games. I like him better than Drew Lock. I'll say that. Lock is way too inconsistent, too erratic. I was never a Drew Lock guy. I do like them. No offense, guys. I know I do like Denver to win today because of Teddy Bridgewater starting. And I like that secondary they've got there. But, yeah, he's got a shot to keep a job for a little while. I don't think he's a guy that's going to win you a Super Bowl. Vic Fangio's depending on his job. We're just talking about job security. They are a dark horse of mine to get into the playoffs. It just depends on the Steelers and their offensive line holding up. But if something happens to Big Ben, I'm going to insert Denver into the playoffs as a wild card, in my opinion.
Another great segue. So to me, this is quarterbacks that have something to prove, right? Big Ben's one of them, right? I mean, Big Ben, can he still do it? Are the Steelers, have they that running game becoming more physical on offense? Is that going to give Big Ben a break? Aaron Rodgers, and the reason why I say Aaron Rodgers, listen, that offseason was horrible for the Green Bay Packers.
Yes.
Aaron Rodgers. Is that going to carry on over into the season? Can he lead Green Bay after all the things that were said? Will Green Bay follow him to maybe a Super Bowl? And then, of course, you got Kirk Cousins with Minnesota. Listen, this is their chance, right? Green Bay may be hurting a little bit. Can he do something? And the other two, Baker Mayfield, can he make that next step? And is this Daniel Jones coming out year? Does he do it this year, or is he done, Robert? So I don't know.
Daniel Jones is probably looking for a job next year, in my opinion. As far as Rodgers, going back to Rodgers, David Bakhtiari, all-pro left tackle guys on Pro Bowl level. He's out for the first 6 games. They let Corey Lindsey go. They brought in Randall Cobb, and they didn't even need Randall Cobb. That was just to make Rodgers happy. They drafted another guy named Rodgers, Amari Rodgers, to play the slot. I've got Minnesota winning that division. It's not because of Kirk Cousins. He is overpaid at 30-something million plus, but he is a good enough guy to make it here. So there's a reason why Minnesota drafted Keelan Mond out of Texas A&M. So I do believe that he is good enough to get there now. He's a stopgap guy. Kirk Cousins, Teddy Bridgewater, Alex Smith, probably not going to win a Super Bowl, but you can get to the playoffs and save your job for a year. And Mike Zimmer, his seat is pretty hot coming into this season. Even though I love the guy, but you know how this NFL is. It's win or go home.
People forget about Teddy Bridgewater's been with 5 teams, and people forget he was the Viking franchise quarterback. He only lost his job because he suffered a terrible, terrible injury.
Yeah.
Then he goes to the Jets, and he wasn't going to start because they had just drafted Sam Darnold. But then he goes to New Orleans, and he wins when Drew Brees is out. He was very successful. So Carolina signs him as their franchise quarterback, but he couldn't close out games there. So that's why they moved on from him. He had the job. He had a great spot at Carolina had he just been able to close out the games, and now he's at Denver. And, let's see what transpires. If he plays really well, he can hold on to the job. I don't think Drew Lock is a threat looking over his shoulder if Teddy Bridgewater plays really, really well. But I think it's all on him. He's never going to get a better opportunity than this again. This is his 5th team. If he doesn't succeed, he really does become the Ryan Fitzpatrick of the NFL.
That's a good question. So, Baker Mayfield, let's talk about him for 1 second, right? The Browns, because of the stupid rule, they won that game against the Chiefs. That ball got knocked out of his hands as he was reaching over the pylon. And because of that rule, that touchdown was nullified. It was a touchback going back the other side with Kansas City. The Browns had him. There's no question in my mind. A lot's going to depend. The Browns got an outstanding running game. They got a formidable defense. Baker Mayfield, he's got to be able to take that one more step, guys. He's got to be able to make the big throws and not just when crunch time comes. Let's put it that way. He's done it a little bit. Can he take that next step to be that Super Bowl quarterback? All of you, I ask you all that question.
I think for one thing, guys, I got Cleveland going to the Super Bowl. I think that they are a deep roster. They're deep at quarterback. They're deep in defense. They've got 2 running backs, best offensive line according to Pro Football Focus last year and this year. I like them to get the upset today against a makeshift offensive line up in Kansas City. As far as Mayfield, he's not a Josh Allen type of player. He's not an all-world, but I think he's going to be good enough to get that contract. A lot of these guys are overpaid because that's what the market says. But if you can get the job done, and Cleveland, things have been so bad for so long in that city. It's hard to say that a team that gets the AFC Championship, potential Super Bowl, may win the whole thing, not to give him an extension. And we know what the market says. He's going to make $30+ million a year, whether we think he can do it or not.
I think that when I'm thinking about Baker Mayfield is I think he is a talented quarterback. But what I worry about is that offense. They got receivers that demand the ball. They just have those kind of receivers. And you only have one ball on offense. And Baker's got to appease all these guys. The running game has got to be appeased. The passing game's got to be appeased. I'm probably higher on Pittsburgh than other teams. And the reason I'm higher on Pittsburgh is because of the coaching staff. They've done an amazing job with some deficiencies on offense. And now they got Najee Harris. I think he's going to help them. I think they're going to be better than people think. Big Ben is obviously on the tail end of his career. But if they can get a running game, they play really good. And now they got T.J. Watts back and things of that nature. They play. And then with the problems that the Ravens have, the Ravens are always going to compete. And then we look at Cincinnati's getting better. They're not going to be in contention for anything, but they're going to be a tough out, I think. And I think Cleveland has the most talent. There's no question in the division. But can they put it all together? can they play together as a team and not individuals? Because everybody in Cleveland has commercials and they haven't really done anything.
You know, Jim, you mentioned guys on Cleveland demanding the ball. Odell Beckham Jr. comes to mind, but his close buddy, his best friend is Jarvis Landry. So when two guys are that close, what's the mindset? All of a sudden, you're not as demanding because he's your guy, the other guy, your best friend.
And I don't think that's true because
No.
they still want the ball, Jack. That's what receivers are. The receivers.
But you're not going to rant. He's not going to rant and rave with his best friend next to him.
That's not true. Tony Hill and Drew Pearson were best of friends. And then we had then Butch Johnson. They all wanted the ball every single play. If they didn't get the ball every single play, they come to the sidelines and complain. That's just how receivers are. Michael Irvin, as good as he was, Alvin Harper, and Kevin Williams, they all wanted the ball. That's just the way receivers are. They always want the ball. They think every ball should be thrown to them. If they're triple coverage, I think they are.
Does the quarterback tell the receivers in the huddle to shut up? I'm aware of what's going on. I mean, an experienced guy, does he put the receivers in their place? A quarterback that's a real leader.
He better.
He better. If he doesn't, then you got issues. Trey Aikman would put them in their place, obviously. And can Baker Mayfield, that's the question I ask, can he put them in their place and say, hey, this is why we're not doing this, or tell them to be quiet. You'll get the ball when we can get it to you.
I will say this, his numbers did get better when Beckham got hurt last year. So that's hopefully Beckham sees how good this team is with their defensive upgrades, and he'll play his part. You get to a Super Bowl in Cleveland, guys. You're going to be the toast of the town for years. They'll be talking about you for years and years and years.
That would be
Hopefully
amazing.
that sinks in with Beckham.
That would be amazing. So last subject, I mean, I knew we were going to go long on this quarterback thing. We'll save the other two for next week, Baker. I want your opinion on two running backs that have been hurt, two that were near the top a couple years ago. Of course, that's McCaffrey and Barkley. Who do you think rises to the top faster? And, can they be the same?
Man, I tell you, McCaffrey is a well of a player. I've always liked him a little bit better than Barkley. But I will say this. I have looked at Daniel Jones' numbers. I mean, he really does need Sam. He needs Barkley more. And I just read that he's going to play. That was, at the beginning of the summer, it was like Barkley's he's a given. He's going to play. And then it's like, we don't know if we're going to activate him. But again, with the offensive line rankings, guys, the Giants, they're 32nd, according to Pro Football Focus. They need Barkley like nobody's business. They need to lean on Barkley and not their own understanding. I mean, this guy's getting a lot. He was drafted really high. If the doctors say he's in go, I mean, he needs about 25 touches. So as far as the team needing, and I like Chuba Hubbard too down at Carolina. So I think the Giants need Barkley more than, as good as I like McCaffrey, then the Carolina Panthers need McCaffrey.
I agree with that. I saw the stats on Jones, and he's just a totally different quarterback without him there. It just takes the focus off of him and puts it on Barkley, which of course makes him better. I don't know. I disagree with you as far as McCaffrey and Barkley. I think when Barkley's healthy, I think it's close. I give the edge to Barkley, and it has nothing to do with me being a Giant fan. I'm of course, my tongue's in my cheeks saying that. So, Robert, I want to thank you for stopping in. Great having you on as we do every week. And enjoy the games today, Robert.
Yeah, you beat me to it, man.
Yes. All right, my friend. Great having you on.
4 hours away, guys.
Yes, sir. 4 hours in college. Take care, Robert. Glad having you on.
Y'all have a good show.
You too, my friend. So there you go. Robert Butler, always dressed to the T, always ready to give his opinions. Folks, we're going to take our first commercial break. And on the other side, me and Jack and Jim we do what we get paid the big bucks for. We start breaking down all the NFL teams and all the games. Stick with us. We'll be right back after these messages. And football, guys, it's football. I don't know what to say, except I'll be watching it from work, guys, just to let you know. We'll be right back after these messages.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211-INFO-LINE. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
If you talk and they will hear you every single time.
Now we're getting killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. 0 tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's the first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I've made it clear to Matt that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's going to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he going to know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, though, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Try.
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports. Good morning. That's me just laying back and observing our new logo. As you see, we've updated a logo for Northeast Streaming Sports. And on that subject, guys, let me just knock out a few of the promotions that I should for Northeast Streaming Sports. First, Jim Jeffcoat and Byron Williams have their own YouTube show, folks. Wednesday night on Northeast Streaming Sports called J&B Talking Shop. I mean, there it is right there, guys. J&B Talking Shop. They're on every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. Great show. Had Everson Walls on there last week. It was a riot listening to all the old stories. And, I mean, they talk about, football from a player's perspective, what was going on, their outlook on the week in sports. It's a great show. Tonight, tomorrow night, Jack Hirsch and Frank Lotierzo, I said it right that time, they have their own show, too, coming up at 7 p.m. Eastern. So
7 o'clock, Mac. I might not show up.
Let me finish.
I'll get fine.
6 o'clock Central Time. Jack and Frank Lotierzo have glove fists. And folks, it's going to be a great show. If you saw the clips of it, that we ran of their last rehearsal, they talk about boxing like nobody else. 2 experts in the boxing field, Jack being inducted into the New York State Hall of Fame, and Frank Loterzo, been commenting, writer, journalist, media guy since the days he stopped boxing as a professional boxer. And so, I mean, great show. And then at Monday night, folks, at 9 p.m. Eastern, I'm getting tired just talking about all the new YouTube shows. These are the Northeast Streaming Sports YouTube shows, folks. Go over there and subscribe and view these shows. You also got Start Spreading the News. I'm blocking Jack's face out on purpose. Start Spreading the News is a all Yankee show, folks. So if you like the Yankees, I mean, they talk about Yankees from soup to nuts over there. It's a great show also. So those are 3 new YouTube shows that we have for you on Northeast Streaming Sports YouTube channel. So go in and check those out when you get a chance. Great shows, a lot of fun to watch. So, guys, we let our guests come on. Do you have something to say, Jim?
To Jim, one thing I can't figure out, okay? I understand with the Hall of Fame, the NFL Hall of Fame, it could go either way with you. It's debatable, but the Ring of Honor, you should absolutely be in the Cowboy Ring of Honor. Has Jerry Jones spoken to you about it?
Well, here's the situation now, Jack. He made it really, if you get into the Hall of Fame, or the only one I know, Darren Woodson, obviously, but Darren Woodson is going to be a Hall of Famer. But he wants you to be a Hall of Famer before he puts you in the Ring of Honor. And that's why he's putting Jimmy Johnson in. I don't have a problem with that. I do. I'm calling
you played 12 years.
I'm calling Jerry. I am calling Jerry. That's ridiculous.
It'll happen. If it happens,
your second, Jim, you're second all time in Cowboy history in sacks. You're ahead of Randy White. You're ahead of Too Tall Jones, Harvey Martin, Jethro Pugh. I mean, you're ahead of all these great defensive linemen. You went to 2 Super Bowls. That's ridiculous. And if Jerry Jones does listen,
if it happens, it happens.
If Jerry Jones is listening to this, Jerry, I'm telling you right now, don't make me come and sink your yacht. You put Jim in the Ring of Honor where he belongs. I don't want to hear no Hall of Fame nonsense because that's
Jack,
oh my
you
God.
belong in the Hall of Fame too.
Well, mine's in regional, New York State, not international. It's the equivalent of a team Hall of Fame.
You're going to international soon enough, Jack. There's no doubt in my mind.
But no, I can't understand that with the Ring of Honor. I really can't. I mean, you never got hurt. You were consistent. You were always there, and it's one of the great defensive players in Cowboy history. And I mean, to wait for someone to get in the Hall of Fame, one shouldn't have anything to do with the other.
I agree.
But, yeah.
I agree. I think Jerry's just running out of room on his stadium is what I think the problem is. Build another level, Jerry. Build another level.
At least have a day for Jim before a game or something. At least have days for the guys.
Yes.
They do that. Yeah.
Yes, we can do that. We're going to work on that. Jack, I'm going to put you in charge of that. You go get Jerry. You ain't scared of nobody.
Yeah.
Actually, Bob, Jerry's been involved in boxing, okay?
Yes.
To an extent, renting out the stadium and so on. And I remember years ago, Bob Arum said, I got to get you together with Jerry to talk about something with boxing, putting on the Boxing Writers Association of America's dinner, maybe something that Jerry would like, or when George Foreman was going to get inducted in the Texas Boxing Hall of Fame, maybe Jerry would present to him. It never quite happened, but I'm sure Jerry wouldn't listen to a word I tell him about Jim.
Actually, he would. You'd be shocked, Jack.
He would nod his head. He'd be nice. He'd say, yeah, we really have to consider Jim, and it would go in one ear and out the other.
No, he's not like me. I don't listen to you very much, Jack. But no, Jack, he would listen to you. Trust me, he listens.
Yes.
That's why he's been so successful.
All right. So we got that,
Jack, and it's gonna happen.
Oh, it will happen. It better happen. So anyway, folks, we're going to go through all the games for you at the end of our as we go over the games. We're going to give you our lock for the week. Jim didn't know this, but our best pick with the spreads we're going to talk about who your best pick would be and your underdog. So your underdog pick. Let me explain this really quick so that, Jack had a problem with this last year. I think he still doesn't understand. But Jim, so I think you'll understand. Underdog is really not a 3-point, dog because they take in the home field as consideration. So it's at least got to be 6 points, at least a touchdown to be considered an underdog. So I'll give you the teams that are 6 points or more, and you just pick your best underdog pick. All right. I know you're forced to do this because you don't have many to choose from, but give the folks at home your best underdog pick at the end of as we break these things down. So let's start. We have the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo getting 6 points. Now, I don't know about I'm not as high on the Bills as everybody else is. I'm really not. And people may think I'm nuts. I don't think the Bills have a good running game. I think their defense is suspect. Josh Allen is great. They got a great core of receivers. I think that Pittsburgh, if they fired their offensive coordinator, guys, they're going back to physical Steeler football. And if that running game gets going, I think the Steelers have a shot at Buffalo. What do you think, Jack?
Not at all. I don't like this Steeler team. Mike Tomlin's never had a losing record. He's a great, great coach. Maybe the second best coach in the NFL next to Bill Belichick, arguably. I look for the Steelers to be something like 8-9 this year. I think Big Ben is all gassed out. They're fading. And their collapse at the end of last year, I don't think it was an aberration. I think that's going to kind of carry over into this year to a degree. I know they didn't have a running attack last year. They drafted Najee Harris. Maybe he's going to be a very good player. Signing T.J. Watt brings a certain energy in the short term, even though he's going to be a great, great player for years to come. And if Buffalo's the team we think they are, they're going to win that game very, very decisively. So I don't like Pittsburgh as an underdog bet at all.
How about you, Jim? What do you think? I know you're a little high on the Steelers. What's your opinion?
I am high on the Steelers, but the difficulty they're going to have is Josh Allen. I think he's going to do a good job, and I have to go with Buffalo, And the game is in Buffalo. No, actually, the game's in Pittsburgh, isn't it?
No, I think it's at home in Buffalo.
If it's in Buffalo, but Jack does have a good point. The concerns with Buffalo right now is the running game. And is it efficient enough to help them and take some of the pressure off of Josh Allen? And we know that they do have a great receiving core, and they have some Diggs as a playmaker. But can they run the ball efficiently enough to keep them off? Their defense, Leslie Frazier has done a good job with their defense, but Pittsburgh's a different team. And we all forget, before the injuries mounted up with Pittsburgh, they were 11-0. And everybody was talking about, them being 16-0 and winning the Super Bowl and everything. The injuries mounted up. So this is not that far removed from it. So I think that Buffalo will win the game, but I think Pittsburgh is going to be a team to reckon with as the season progresses. Because I think Big Ben, now he has a better running game, and that's when he was the best, when they can run the ball and be physical.
So what do you think with the points? Do you think that Buffalo beats them by 6.5 or more?
No,
I like Buffalo big in that game.
We heard yours. We heard yours. Let's get you. Okay. So you think
Buffalo's going? I think it's going to be closer than people think. That's
so you like Pittsburgh
to compete, but I think Buffalo will win the game.
Okay, so Jack has Buffalo winning by more than 6.5, probably easily. Jack's saying, I think Pittsburgh will keep it close, if not win, and Jim thinks Pittsburgh will keep it close. So you got the Chargers minus 1.5 at Washington. Does it all depend on the Washington defense, whether they win or lose, or does Fitz have to have a great game for Washington to win this one, Jack?
Very intriguing game because I like the Washington football team a lot more than other people do. They have a great defense. I think it's a sneaky game going in there with Justin Herbert, and it's a toss-up game. Could go in either way. I think it's going down to the wire. I'm going to go out on the limb, and I'm going to go with the Chargers in that game. But it could go anyway, a bounce of the ball here, there. It's going to be that tight.
Yeah. What do you think, Jim? Who do you think? Do you think that Washington can beat? Because it's basically a pick 'em. You think Washington can beat the Chargers?
I think Washington will win. And here's the thing that we never talk about, but Saints, L.A., the Chargers had a coaching change, and they have new coaches in their positions at the Chargers. And when I know Justin Herbert did a great job at the end of the year, but everything is different. Everything is different for the Chargers. Chargers have a very good defense, but we don't know how this coach is going to react, or these coaches are going to react under the pressure. They got to go all the way across the country to play in their first game in Washington. So I think that gives Washington an advantage. Rivera, this is his second year at Washington. He knows what he has. I'm not a big Fitz fan because just like we talked about, Fitz might throw 4 touchdowns, but he might also throw 6 interceptions. But I think Washington will win this game.
Jim, how important is a traveling element? You just mentioned.
It's especially if you got to go that far across town, across the country. You go in that's 3-hour difference, time difference. So your body has to adjust to those things. So I think that's more than
what did your coaches do, just real quick, Jim, on like under Landry or Johnson or the big I can't remember his name. I got a brain freeze right now. The one in between, the one that came right after Jimmy.
Bob Levy with the Bills.
No.
After Jimmy, Barry Switzer.
Thank you, Switzer. And of course, you could throw Levy in there too, Mar Levy. In traveling? Did you guys travel? Did you leave right away, or did you leave just before the game and get there the night before? Well, I mean, how did they approach?
We always got there the night before, but what we did was change practice. We changed practice to different times to adjust our bodies to playing at the game. Because, say, if you're playing a night game at let's just use, for example, Seattle. That's a 2-hour time difference from Dallas. So you would be playing as opposed to playing at 7:30, you might be playing at 9:30.
Right.
7:20, you'll be at 9:20. So you have to adjust your times to get your body to adjust to it. And it's a little bit, and they say, well, it's not that big of a deal because basketball players do it all the time. But it's different for football players because of the nature and the physicality of the game.
Sure. So we got Washington. I'm going to go with Washington. Jets got the Chargers. Jim's got Washington also. So then you have we had Keith on for the Pats preview. You have New England -3 at home versus Miami. With New England being home, Belichick, what he does to young quarterbacks, or quarterbacks in general, especially young quarterbacks, I think the Patriots will win by more than 3 points. I think they'll put at least 6 points better than Miami. What do you think, Jack?
No, I'm being a complete hypocrite here because I'm very high on Tua, and I think he's going to be an elite NFL quarterback. But if I'm going to be honest with the way I feel, one game today, I think Bill Belichick, as you mentioned, he throws every possible defensive scheme at Tua. And unless Brian Flores, a Dolphin head coach, is protecting Tua, playing a very conservative game, there's going to be trouble for Tua this game. I mean, there really is. And I could see New England winning this game handily.
How about you, Jim? What do you think?
I'm going to go with Miami. And the reason I'm going with Miami, the reason is because I think it's difficult for a rookie quarterback. Mac Jones, no matter how talented he is, this is the first time that he's going to see these schemes and disguise that he'll see. He'll get better. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the reason I'm going with Miami is because Flores knows Belichick. He's coached for Belichick. He knows what he's going to try to do to that quarterback, and he's going to have an answer for it.
Okay. So we got Jack's Jets. At Carolina, the Jets are getting only 5 points, which surprised me. I think Sam Darnold cruises today. I think the Jets play really well. But I think in the end, Carolina wins by more than 5 points. What do you think, Jack?
I think the Jets cover. Yeah. Looking at it objectively, I'm going to pick Carolina. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I really do. I could see it ending 16-13 or thereabouts, and low-scoring game, conservative. I think Matt Rule, the Panther coach, puts Sam Darnold in a position to succeed. Look, Robbie Anderson has that element too. He was the Jet wide receiver. They moved on from him. That's kind of insulting. He played in college for Matt Rule, so they have that relationship. And I could just see Carolina eking out a victory. And as far as the two quarterbacks go, it will basically be a wash when all is said and done. Zach Wilson will make a few good throws, and everyone realizes who's a Jet fan. I mean, this is a learning process this year, a developmental year. I think the game's a little more important for the Panthers to win. If they should lose to the Jets, it really sets a bad tone for this year as far as them being a potential playoff team. But I think the Panthers eke a win out by a field goal.
What do you think, Jim? What do you think about the Jets getting 5 points, at Carolina too? You got Sam Darnold, who I think is going to be a very good quarterback. I don't know if he's going to, be a franchise quarterback, but I think he'll be good enough in the next couple of years to make the Panthers a legitimate, playoff team. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are here. McCaffrey's finally healthy. They got, like you said, Chuba Hubbard coming in. I think they're going to run the ball. You got to remember, you talk about that Giant connection. Rule worked with the Giants as an offensive line coach. And these things, they're going to run the ball. They're going to, with McCaffrey, you can do some various things, pass it because he's a good receiver and things like that. I think that the Jets are going to have a tough time with Carolina. I think Wilson's going to be a good quarterback. Don't get me wrong. And he's going to have good people around him. But I just think at this point, Carolina is more on the up. There were actually, Mac, you had picked Carolina to maybe be a possible playoff team.
Yes.
So I think that they do have talent. The more you look at them, I think they're getting better, and they're going to give teams issues. And if they can't give the Jets issues at this point, then they got problems.
The Jets don't have that great of a pass rush. They got Carl Lawson. He was supposed to be a lead on defense. He's injured. Yes. He's out the year. And I think that's going to hurt the Jets a lot more than people let on, losing Carl Lawson.
I agree. I
think and you got to remember
in Carolina.
Me too. And you got to remember Sam Darnold, the guy he played with at the Jets. I mean, last year Anderson was one of the best receivers in the league, guys. So, I mean, don't forget about that. So you got McCaffrey, you got Robbie Anderson, you got two major weapons Carolina has on offense. Jets right now don't have a major weapon. I think what they got is going to be a very competitive team, an exciting young quarterback, and I think that they're going to raise a lot of hell this year. But I think for the first game, with Carolina starting to put some things together, I think that they're going to be really tough this year, and I just think Carolina's too much the first game at home, especially being at home for the Jets.
Yeah.
But can you imagine Zach Wilson throwing for 4 touchdown passes, resembling Patrick Mahomes, and the Jets win big? Can you imagine the excitement that's going to create?
I know you could imagine it, Jack.
Yeah, only imagining that. Remember,
I mean, it would be excellent
today. That's
but
not
that would be.
It's not going to happen in the future.
Very true.
That's just today. It's tough for these rookie quarterbacks. I don't care how good they are. It is tough going in the NFL in that first game because you see things. That's the first time they're seeing it, and that's tough. All these rookie when you have 3 starting, like you said. They're in for a difficult ride.
Hey, listen, and they're pumped up. They're nervous. They're excited. Everything's the speed of the game is going to be crazy, and they're going to have to get their bearings. I mean, they're going to have to. There ain't too many rookie quarterbacks that can step in like a Dan Marino and figure it out the first year. There ain't too many quarterbacks out there like that, folks.
And
I
was thinking about this when Jack was saying things. You got to remember, Jalen Hurts' dad is a very successful high school coach in Texas, in Houston, at Channelview. And Joe Burrow's dad was a college coach. So they've been around football forever. And it's still, they struggled that first year. They struggled. Yeah. And you got to think about that. And some of these quarterbacks that are coming in don't have that advantage. And they're still going to be struggling. Dan Marino was just a phenom.
Yeah.
He was just one of those guys. But that is hard being a rookie quarterback and to start the first game of the year.
I mean, if Marino didn't get rid of the ball in like 1.1 second, I mean, he threw the ball just as the center snapped it to him. The ball was gone. It was just unbelievable that release. So we got Jack saying that the Jets will hang in there, and me and Jim both think Carolina will win by more than 5. Eagles in Atlanta. Now, we have the Philly sports guy on, Jamie Pags, and he loves the Eagles. He has the Eagles going 3-0 the first 3 games. I mean, he thinks they'll beat San Fran, they'll beat Atlanta, and I think they're playing Dallas the third game, if I'm not mistaken. But I mean, the guy, I love his passion for the Eagles. You got to love his passion for the Eagles. They're going against Atlanta. Now, to me, for the Eagles, this is a winnable game. I mean, I think they have a chance at beating Atlanta. I'm not saying they're gonna, but they do have a chance. This is a game. New head coach in Atlanta. Matty Ice is getting a little older. The Julio Jones is gone. I know they got Pitts, but he's a rookie. I mean, if the Eagles are going to start off and win a game, this could be their first win, guys. I mean, if Pags made one good point. He said the Eagles have a lot of speed, and they do. If you look at the quarterbacks, the running backs, and receivers, they have a lot of speed on offense. And if they can get that speed going against Atlanta, they could beat them. But, all right, I'm going to take them. I'm going to take the Eagles. I'm going on a limb. The Eagles are going to keep it within 3 anyway. I mean, maybe 21-20. Who knows? I'm going to go with the Eagles today, and I'll probably never take them again. But what do you think, Jack?
I think the Eagles are going to edge it out. The Eagles seem to be making so many moves, and the Falcons really don't. I just don't understand the Falcons moving on from Julio Jones, a franchise receiver. Why not keep him with Calvin Ridley and Kyle Pitts? I mean, that would make, for an awesome passing game. I just feel, you mentioned with Matt Ryan, I feel – even though they did the right thing drafting Kyle Pitts, who's going to be a great, great tight end in the league, at the end of the year, I think they're going to be drafting pretty high, looking for a quarterback. And it's kind of like the joke that Clubber Lang said in the Rocky movie, when Apollo Creed decided to train Rocky. One has been working with the other. And that's what I think the Eagles and Falcons are basically, cellar dwellers. Jalen Hurts, you mentioned, Jim, his father, being a coach. Jalen Hurts has one thing going for him, maturity. Very, very mature. It's a question of his talent. But I think the Eagles will have it together. I think that they'll win the game. I could see the Eagles winning 19-13.
Jim?
I'm like you guys. I think the Eagles will win, and I don't know what the score is. I don't think it'll be a blowout, but they do have some speed. The more you look at them, they do have some speed, and I think that Atlanta is, and they don't want to say it, but they're in a rebuilding process, even with Fitz and Ridley. Who's their running back? Who's going to be their top running back? You got to ask that question too.
Yeah,
and you don't know. You don't know. See, and that's the thing. I think Philly should win this game, but I think what's going to happen is we're going to see some things with Jalen Hurts. Normally, you don't see with quarterbacks. You'll see them in some positions more of college RPOs and things like that, and trying to take advantage of what he can do and what he can be successful at. I think they'll try to put him in those positions and try to keep him getting better. Pags, they will be competitive, but I don't think they have enough right now to obviously fight for the NFC East. But they'll be competitive and they'll play people hard. That's Philly. That's the way Philly plays. They always. That's
their attitude. No doubt, no doubt. The players do represent the city for sure. Yeah. Guys, this is our last break for the show. We still got a lot of games to break down. Plus, we have our lock of the week. This is one that you can bet, and don't blame us if you lose, because if you listen to it, you're not. I'm just kidding. No, it's going to be a real good bet. And then we have our underdog bet coming, guys. So stick with us. We'll be right back. It'll be a quick break. We'll be right back after these messages.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211 Info Line. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
We all make choices. When it comes to alcohol, kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye-bye.
Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, have a seat for a second. Remind me about that party again.
Alex is just
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. They want guidance and honest answers to their questions. And it makes a difference when the message is consistent and part of everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
If you talk and they will hear you every single time.
Oh, we're getting killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah, 0 tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's the first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I've made it clear to Matt, that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's going to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he going to know?
you think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, though, but they hear more than you think.
Talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, get any.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Mac Jim Mac Jack big football show. It's on every Sunday, folks, 8 to 10 a.m. We start off your football day here on Northeast Streaming Sports, and I'm telling you, this is the best football show around. I'm telling you right now because we get into it. We got a former 2-time Super Bowl champion with us, Jack, with his knowledge of football. And me, I just kind of work around here, guys. Don't even pay attention to me if you can help it. But now comes the time that I've been waiting for to break down the game, and that's my Giants getting 2.5 against the Denver Broncos. And I want to emphasize a point to you all that I made earlier. The Giants organization has produced some of the greatest head coaches in history. Bill Belichick, Vince Lombardi, Tom Landry, Tom Coughlin, and not to mention the builder himself, Bill Parcells. And I mean, you know, we got to give Dallas Cowboys a little credit here because Bill Parcells was coaching for them when they found Sean Payton. Sorry, Sean McMahon. Sean Payton. So combine them Super Bowls all together. Holy God, you got a plethora of Super Bowls that came from the Giants organization in one way or another. So with that being said, the Giants are getting 2.5 at home against the Denver Broncos. I don't want to hear about the Denver's defense. I don't want to hear about it. I know what the Giants have. The Giants got the most underrated defense in the league. If Saquon Barkley plays, the game is over. Even without him, the game is over. The biggest question on the Giants is, can that offensive line come together and play as a unit? That's the biggest question. And, of course, that's a huge question, right, guys? I mean, if that line cannot protect DJ, then Denver will win the game. What do you think, Jack?
Yeah, I don't know why people are shaking in their boots about the Denver Broncos. I mean, come on, Teddy Bridgewater coming in. Don Miller, even on defense, might be a little long in the tooth. And you're right about the Giant defense. I mean, especially look on paper. I mean, their linebacking core is amongst the best in the league. Their safeties are excellent. Pass rush-wise, you know, they're so-so on the front defensive line. Leonard Williams does get pressure on the quarterback. And so with the Giants, it's more a question of their running game. Can they get a running game going? Because if Saquon Barkley's not in form, it's going to force Daniel Jones to throw a little more. And let's be honest, if the Giants can win a game like this, are they really a playoff team? I mean, they're playing at home against an okay Denver Bronco team, nothing special at all. If you lose this game, who are you really counting on beating? You know, the Philadelphia Eagles and a couple other weaker teams. So I hate to say an opening game is a must game, but the Giants really have got to win this game to set a certain pattern, trend, and, you know, send out a statement.
What do you think, Jim?
I think that I was just reading an article this morning where Barkley he's going to be limited in his carries for this game. And I read that already. I think that Vic Fangio might be one of the best defensive strategists that I've ever seen. And he is probably a notch below Belichick, in my opinion. I think he's really good. And I think Denver is going to shock people. I think Bridgewater, and Jack mentioned this before. I think you did, Jack, that he was a franchise quarterback before the injury, that horrific injury in Minnesota. And I think Bridgewater is going to manage the game really well. If they can run the ball, they're going to play good defense, obviously. We know that. And I think this is going to be one of those games where they upset the Giants. And I've been a Giants fan forever, but I just think Denver is just that way. I think they can do this, and I think they can win on the road just because of how they're built. And I think this is not a must-win game for the Giants, but I think that the Giants will go continually get better. I thought, and I mentioned this, I think the Giants are going to win the NFC East this year. And I just think that this is not a must-win game for them. I think they'll play well, but I just think Denver is just a little bit better right now.
Okay, fair enough. So me and Jack are going with the Giants. Jim takes the Denver Broncos. And the not the upset, in fact, they're favored. So I think it go either way. I really do. I think, it's to me, if Saquon Barkley is limited, they better use him right. And then whether it's him catching the ball.
We thought Zach Prescott was going to be limited. So just because they say someone might be limited, it's not like handing in an injury report. They don't have to limit them. They're no fines by the league.
Right.
That's true. I have no argument with that. I just think that Denver's a little bit better right now. I just think they're a little bit better.
So, guys, we got Green Bay go to New Orleans. Very interesting game to me. And it's interesting for a lot of reasons. As I mentioned in the beginning of the show, that offseason with Rodgers and Green Bay Packers and the Green Bay fans was just terrible. I'm not, I've been really down on Rodgers. I'm not going to stay down on Rodgers anymore. I think he acted like a baby, but that's past. Now it's season time. You told the team they weren't good enough to win a Super Bowl the way they were built. And I don't care what anybody says. Players are human beings. And Rodgers had the full support of the Green Bay Packer players. Their defense is okay. They got an outstanding running game. I mean, people don't talk about Aaron Jones and that running game of the Green Bay Packers, the way he can catch the ball and run that football. They got a great running game. Rodgers, of course, man, there's no better in the league than Aaron Rodgers. None. The Saints got a good defense. They got a strong defense, too. I mean, their defense is better than Green Bay's defense, to be honest. You got Kamara, outstanding running back, catching the ball, running the ball, another great running back. The receivers, I think, are pretty equal, too. I mean, it seems like the Saints always find that new receiver. You know, Thomas is down. They got somebody else going in there. Don't worry about it, Saints fans. All of a sudden, this young rookie comes out of nowhere, and in the last preseason game, I think he caught 3 touchdown passes. Winston under Sean Payton. I guarantee you is going to be a different Winston. There's no doubt about it. Tampa Bay didn't know what to do with Winston. They said, go ahead and do it. It's not how you quarterback. You've got to have a guy that can coach up a player. And that's what it's all about, coaching up, developing talent, seeing what he's good at, show him how to read defenses better. And that's what Winston's problem was. He thought he could fit balls in places and try to make plays all over the field. He doesn't have to worry about that right now, guys. I think the Saints are going to cover the spread. Green Bay's, I think, favored by about 4.5 points. I think that's too much. I wouldn't be surprised if the New Orleans Saints would win today. If they were at home in their normal stadium, I think they would win today. So I'm going to take New Orleans to cover the spread. I mean, to get under as an underdog in this game, with the possibility of winning this game. And we'll see what happens, guys. What do you think, Jack?
Now, this New Orleans Saints team reminds me, Jim, of the Buffalo Bill teams you went to, who were in the Super Bowl against your Cowboy teams a couple of years before, but started becoming a little long in the tooth, was still very good, but starting a gentle decline. Good enough to make the playoffs, be perceived as a Super Bowl contender, but was gently slipping. That's what I think the Saints are. You know, the one thing you can't teach a quarterback is instincts. I hear about all these wonderful stories. Well, Jameis Winston is now with Sean Payton. Payton's a quarterback guru. He's going to teach him this or that. But listen, Jameis Winston was with Bruce Arians at Tampa Bay right before that. Bruce Arians, a Super Bowl winning coach. And Jameis Winston, is he going to learn that, to throw the ball when he's not supposed to? I'm a big believer in the quarterback. You just can't teach instincts. Certain guys have phenomenal instincts. We mentioned Dan Marino before. His instincts were off the charts, okay? I love Jameis Winston, but he's the type of quarterback who's going to complete 6 passes in a row, bring the team down the field, and then give it back to the other team. Aaron Rodgers, with all the drama, make no mistake about it, he was getting ready in the offseason. Not too many teams have one guy as their specific leader. With the Packers, it's Aaron Rodgers. Everyone rallies around him. He'll have the Packers ready. I know how tough it was to win in New Orleans in the past, but in recent years, it hasn't been as tough. Maybe because there hasn't been fans in the stands the last couple of years, whatever, but I like the Packers in that game.
Well, here's the thing you got to think about, and I always say that about Peyton. He's the quarterback whisperer. And the reason I say that is you got to remember what happened to Drew Brees in San Diego. They were San Diego then. He was replaced by Phillip Rivers, and he was a good quarterback, but not a great quarterback. Take him to New Orleans. He wins a Super Bowl in New Orleans, Drew Brees. You take a quarterback who everybody says, he's a good one, but he's an average quarterback. Same thing with Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston was looked at as a failure. But I think under Sean, and I've been around Sean, I've coached with Sean, I think Sean is going to take him to another level. And I'm with Mac. I think their defense is pretty darn good. And they are a little bit long in the tooth, but they're a very good defense. They're playing in Jacksonville. And what you mentioned about Tampa, about the heat, the humidity, who's more prepared for that? Green Bay or New Orleans? New Orleans been practicing in Texas and at TCU, and the heat has been really bad and the humidity's been up. So I think New Orleans has the advantage there. And I just think that, in my opinion, New Orleans is going to win this game. I was just looking at a thing with Aaron Rodgers saying, hey, you drafted a quarterback number 1, let him play. That was an unusual statement to say for Aaron Rodgers. I don't know how committed or how close that team is with Green Bay. They've had success in the past, but I think there's a little bit of disconnect with the general manager and the head coach with Aaron Rodgers, and it's going to show up on the field.
You mentioned a good point, the game being in Jacksonville, but consider this, New Orleans has been displaced, okay? They don't have their regular schedule, their regular pattern. At least Green Bay is at home, and all they have to do is travel basically to the game. And then, of course, adjust to the weather conditions in Jacksonville. But New Orleans has been displaced. It's kind of a little organized. I just don't know. I have to correct you on one thing, Jim, the Drew Brees situation at San Diego. Drew Brees was an outstanding quarterback at San Diego. What made the decision easier to move on from Drew Brees? He got injured the last game of the season when he was with the Chargers. He hurt his shoulder. And since Phil Rivers was then waiting, they went with Phil Rivers. Had Drew Brees not gotten injured, they would have had a heck of a problem. And if truth be told, even though they were both Hall of Fame type quarterbacks, Rivers and Brees, if you had to pick one over the other for their career, you give a little edge to Drew Brees.
I'd agree with that too. I'd agree with that.
I have no problem.
But you know something, I know Jim was in a locker room. And when you're in a locker room, it's like a band of brothers in there, right? You all have disagreements. I mean, there's even players that you don't like in a locker room. I know that for a fact. But when it comes to team things, when it comes to war, however you want to, any kind of symbolism you want to put on this, when it comes to team chemistry, I think sometimes team chemistry is more important than talent. And we've seen that in all sports. You can have the most talented football team or players, and if you don't have chemistry, it really doesn't matter. I mean, you might win some games, but you're not going to put it all together. And I don't know what you think, Jack, but I know Jim's with me with this. If one player, especially your leader, comes out and says that his team, with the players currently on there, are not good enough to win a Super Bowl, that stings, man. Yeah. That hurts.
It really does. And then
Did he say that? Did he actually say that?
He said the way the team was constructed right now, with the players we have, we're not good enough to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah. But also you got to think about, and I was thinking about this as you guys were expressing things, New Orleans has been on the road. But what does that do? They eat breakfast together. They eat lunch together. They eat dinner. That's bringing that team closer. That happens. The same incidents happened with us at the University of Houston when I was coaching at the University of Houston. Case Keenum was the quarterback, and we had to come to Dallas. We stayed 2-3 weeks in Dallas, and we became really good and we became really close because now you don't have as many of the distractions as you do at home. And then you say, well, it's college kids, but even with the NFL, you notice that, first of all, New Orleans hasn't had any incidents with COVID. There's a reason why. And these things, they're together. They're meshing. They're understanding each player. They're becoming closer. And that's why I like New Orleans to be better than a lot of people would think. And I think that's going to help Winston because he's having really more time with those receivers and running backs and understanding the offense.
I think it's going to be a heck of a game. I think it's going to be.
Yeah, I do too. I think that's.
Whoever wins this is definitely going to earn it. That's for sure.
Yes.
So we got Seattle and the Colts. It's interesting to me. Me and Jack, Jim, we had a guest on that was a reporter for the Philly Voice. 2 years before it went south, just fell apart. He wrote an article about Wentz's problem with the team. In the locker room with the coaches. He was more a me guy than anything else. Very, very complicated, very immature. As you saw what happened with Foles, that Foles got that statue. It might hurt a little bit that Foles got a statue, but he did win. He did lead the team to a Super Bowl, whether you like it or not. And that was because of Wentz injury, we know. But he seemed to give up on the Philadelphia Eagles and the coaching staff there. He gets shipped to Indianapolis to his old offensive coordinator, who he looked like an MVP under when he first got there. So you got right there, and you got Seattle with Russell Wilson, and there's been, talk up from him saying he doesn't like the way the team is constructed on offense. He's been hit a lot. It's true. He's been sacked more than any quarterback. I think that's more because there's no running game and the defense is nowhere close to used to be. So he's on the field a lot more than he used to be, and they depend on him a lot more than they used to. So I'm really interested in this game. The Colts have a solid team, but the quarterback is an issue. And Seattle, they got one of the best quarterbacks in the league, but their team is an issue. So Seattle's favored by 3 points at Indianapolis. Team-wise, I would go with the Colts. Quarterback-wise, I'd go with Wilson. I'm going to have to take the team over the quarterback. I'm going to go with the Colts. What do you think, Jack?
I'm going to tell you the biggest problem that NFL teams have more than ever is the offensive line. It's unbelievable. Practically every team has offensive line issues, but the Colts don't. They're pretty much set up there through the draft. And you mentioned Frank Reich. You played with him at Buffalo, right, Jim?
No, I played against him. That was who I had decided.
Oh, okay. Yeah, when he had that disastrous Super Bowl game, the 9 turnovers coming in for Jim Kelly. Okay, but Frank Reich, right, he was Wentz's, offensive coordinator the year they won the Super Bowl. And even though Wentz didn't play in the playoff games, he played a big part in it, winning, most of the regular season games till late in the year. And he'll have Wentz in a position to succeed. I just feel Seattle's one of these teams, perennial playoff teams, that's going to be taking a step back, not a step forward. And then Indianapolis, I can see them, the Colts winning this game, close game. I think they're going to open it up for Carson Wentz a little more than people think, okay? I think he's in the right spot with Indianapolis. He's with a very good team ready to win. And people forget last year, they won the playoffs last year, and they're ready to take a step forward. So when we talk about Super Bowl contenders, they're the one forgotten team. We just don't talk about Indianapolis. And maybe we should start taking them seriously. I think the reason we don't is because Carson Wentz is their quarterback. But if Frank Reich could get him back to the form of 2017, they're absolutely a Super Bowl contender. And I think they do beat Seattle.
You make some good points, but what we talked about earlier about receivers, DK Metcalf is a matchup nightmare. And I think the one thing about Seattle, they play hard defensively, and they don't have, you're right, they got some issues on their defense, but they play so hard, and they play as Pete Carroll gets those kids playing hard. I think they're going to shock Indianapolis. I think Indianapolis, like you said, is going to be a playoff team. But this game with Wentz coming back, and it's similar to what happened, I think Indianapolis defense is a very good defense, but I just think with Russell Wilson and how hard they play, I think Metcalf is going to be an issue for the Indianapolis Colts. And if they can run the ball and control the ball a little bit, they got a chance. I think, my opinion, I think Seattle's going to win this game, but it's going to be a close game. It's going to be a 2-point, 1-point game. It's going to be really close and won in the last seconds. And I don't bet against Russell Wilson when the game comes down to the fourth quarter.
Hall of Fame quarterback, no doubt about it.
Yes.
So Cleveland and Kansas City, Cleveland getting 6. I just like Cleveland getting 6 against Kansas City. We know Kansas City's high-powered. Cleveland can control the ball, keep Mahomes off the field. Their defense is very good. I think their defenses are almost equal. I think KC's defense is a little bit better this year than people are going to think. I just like the running game. I like to control the clock. Cleveland does have good receivers and a great tight end. KC, of course, has great receivers and a great tight end. But I think 6 points is just too much. Cleveland wouldn't surprise me if they won the game at all. But I love the point 6.5 Cleveland getting. What do you think, Jack?
Cleveland could have easily beaten them in the playoff game. And I like Cleveland to go to the Super Bowl this year. I like them to win at Buffalo in the AFC Championship game. But you kind of wonder, if Kansas City gives them a rear end beating, what does it do for them mentally? Because something about that Cleveland Brown team, there are a lot of different personalities there. And you just kind of wonder whether it might unravel if Patrick Mahomes lights him up, and does it send a message? But with that said, how can you not take the 6 points with Cleveland? I mean, I think they're winning the game outright today and beating Kansas City and sending a message. There's a new big hit in town, in the AFC, at least them in Buffalo. Now Kansas City's going to have to sit in the back of the car. They don't have the front seat anymore. And I look for Cleveland to be really geared for this game. You could appreciate Myles Garrett. He's just getting better and better, Jim, right? And so I got to like Cleveland in this spot.
I think that Kansas City is going to win this game. And I'll tell you the reason why. First of all, I'm not going to bet against Mahomes. And I think now Tyreek Hill, I think he's got a little bit banged up, and there's some issues with that. But I just think Kansas City offensively is incredible. And Andy Reid, I don't know his exact stats on the first game of the season, but I think it's phenomenal. I don't think he loses very much, many first games. And I just think Kansas City in the long run, Cleveland, it will be better. They'll be better, and they could beat them in the championship game. But right now, I think Kansas City is going to come out, and they're going to come out guns a-firing because they had issues, obviously, in the Super Bowl, and they were hurt. They were hurt by losing that Super Bowl. Now they're going to come back and show, hey, we're still here. And Mahomes is definitely going to show people that he's still possibly one of the best 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the NFL.
No doubt.
Well, Casey revamped the offensive line, so no excuses there.
You got that right. So for the Monday night game, guys, we got Baltimore playing the Raiders. Baltimore's giving the Raiders 5 points. A lot of people are back and forth on the Raiders. Are they going to have a good team? Are they going to have a bad team? You know how I feel about Gruden and his 12 quarterbacks and, all the stuff that goes on with Gruden. Great offensive coordinator, excitable guy. If they don't have a good defensive coordinator, the Raiders aren't going anywhere. I got to go with Baltimore. I can see Lamar Jackson fading back, receivers going out, the cornerbacks chasing the receivers, and then Lamar just taking off with the football. He's got a receiver in town now. Baltimore's defense is always stout. I'm going to take Baltimore in the 5. What do you got, Jack?
Yeah, I mean, I can't go against Baltimore. I mean, they got Sammy Watkins for Lamar Jackson. And what bothers me a little bit about Baltimore and Lamar Jackson, he was complaining a lot last year about the plays being run. And when you start complaining in season and you go public with it, it doesn't give it a good look. But look, they did win a playoff game last year, the Ravens. And even though I don't like them to go to the Super Bowl, I mean, the Raiders seem to be a mess, disorganized. And maybe I'm missing something. Maybe it'll all click for the Raiders and they win this game. But you can't go against Baltimore.
I disagree with both of you guys. I think the Raiders are going to win this game. And I'll tell you why. You mentioned this, is that Gus Bradley is the new defensive coordinator. Gus Bradley was the defensive coordinator for the Chargers, and he built that. Rod Marinelli is the new defensive line coach. And Marinelli, we know the success he's had in the NFL. I think they'll play good defense. They'll contain Jackson. I think the problem with Baltimore, to me, is their running game. And that's what Baltimore leaves. You lose Dobbins. You lose Justin Hill. Now you got to bring in all these new guys. And everybody's going to be, obviously, looking for Lamar to run the ball more. And they'll be able to control that better because they're not going to be afraid of the running backs that they have. And maybe when Blunt gets healthier, that thing might happen. But right now, I think the Raiders have the advantage. I'm going with the Raiders to win the game.
Nice. Hey, good pick. So, folks, we're coming to the end of the show. We got 6 minutes. So we're going to give you our locks. Your favorite game with the spreads, guys. My favorite game is Carolina giving 5 to the Jets. As I said, Carolina will win by more than 5 points. Be a good game, I think. I think the Jets will be competitive. But I like Carolina with the 5, giving 5 points. What do you got, Jack?
Yeah, don't laugh, but mine is the Buffalo Bills giving, 6.5 to the Steelers. I think, don't blink. If you tune in late to the game, you're coming late in the first quarter, don't be shocked to see Buffalo up 17-0. I mean, I think Buffalo's ready to really roll, and it's a big statement. I still think the Steelers have issues. Like I said, I love Mike Tomlin as a coach, but I just don't think it's quite there for the Steelers this year.
How about you, Jim? What do you got for who you think is going to win? No doubt with the spread.
No doubt. I think Washington will beat the Chargers.
Okay.
I really do think that. That's not a thing. I think Justin Herbert's going to be a good quarterback, but the Chargers are traveling across the country for their first game. So I'm going to say Washington is going to win that game.
So you have Washington, I have Carolina, and Jack has the Bills. Now, folks, for our underdog pick. So let's see what we have here. I'll give you the 7 teams in a second.
There's no need to fear. Underdog is here.
When criminals in this world appear and break the laws that they should fear and frighten all who see or hear, the cry goes up both far and near for underdog, underdog.
That's right, folks. Our underdog pick, my favorite cartoon of all time, Underdog with that power pill in his ring. People don't know that. That's was the beginning of the testing of the Viagra. So just to let you all know, there's a little spot for you to consider. So the underdog pick today, guys, my favorite underdog. Now, again, the underdog has to be more than 6 points. So the underdog teams here, let's see if I can get them for you. We have, Dallas game already won, so you can't pick them. That's already played. But we have Pittsburgh getting 6.5. We got Detroit getting 7.5 against the 49ers. I don't even know if we covered that one. Cleveland getting 6 at KC. And I think that's the big ones. Oh, sorry. Chicago getting 4 against 7 against the Rams. One of the other teams we didn't pick. We didn't have enough time to go through. So Chicago getting 7. We've got Pittsburgh getting 6.5. Detroit getting 7.5, and Cleveland getting 6. And guys, for my underdog, I'm taking Cleveland with the 6 points. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't have to say much. I just mentioned Cleveland a while ago. I think they'll win the game outright. So Cleveland's my pick.
What do you got?
I have to listen to you guys, and I'm going with Cleveland. I think it's going to be closer. I still think Kansas City will win the game.
Right.
I think Cleveland. That's a little bit too high of a spread for that one.
Okay, you sure you don't want to take Detroit? I mean, this is your second chance. If you guys want to take Detroit, getting the 7.5.
Hey, the Texan-Jacksonville Jaguar game's a little intriguing. Texans might actually win that game.
Well, with Tyrod Taylor, the Hall of Fame quarterback himself, playing, there's no doubt that the Texans will beat the new rookie out there with a long release that takes about 10 seconds to throw the football. I'm just kidding, of course. Trevor Lawrence should do very well against that UC.
You know what makes the NFL fun? There's going to be at least one game that's going to shock the heck out of all of us. We're going to be astounded. One team's going to win like 41-0 out of nowhere. And we're going to be like, whoa, you know?
Yeah,
but that's what
I
makes it
agree
so
with you,
fun.
Jack. It's not going to be the Jets, but I think it's going to be something.
Zach Wilson, the Jets win 35-10. Zach Wilson lights it up. The next Patrick Mahomes. Everyone's going crazy.
Yes.
Making these cross-the-body throws.
Yes. I don't know about you guys, but I still think Detroit has an outside shot, especially when they start biting kneecaps and players get, leaving the game. Campbell has his way. There'll be a lot of bloody knees out there this Sunday.
I like Goff better than Stafford. That's just my.
Listen, Goff is a little bit younger, that's for sure. I think they're almost the same quarterback. Stafford, of course, the veteran that probably knows defenses a little bit better than Goff. That's where he would.
Next week we'll talk to Jim, the biggest cheap shot artists in his era in the NFL.
Yeah.
I bet there's more than one. That's for sure.
Yeah, there is more than one.
Okay, guys, thank you. Great show today. Thanks to Keith. Thanks to Robert. Thanks for joining us. Full game. NFL today, full pack full of games. And, man, I can't wait. I got to work, but I will have that TV on, and I don't care how busy I am. If the Giants are on, the customers can wait. That's why I'm going to put a big sign. Giants on, customers wait. So anyway, guys.
Sunday ticket, Jack.
Yes, it's time. It's time. It's time, guys. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you back here Thursday. Don't forget to check out Jim on his Wednesday, 8 p.m. Central, Talking Shop. Don't forget to check out Jack and their first show Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern, and that's Fisted Glove. We'll see you guys Thursday.
And Evander Holyfield got knocked out last night. His son, Elijah Holyfield, got cut by the Eagles, so it hasn't been a good last couple of weeks for the Holyfield family.
Jack with his last jab before we leave, folks. Thank you, Jack. Have a great day, folks, and we'll see you on Mac and Jack Sports on Thursday. Great Sunday.